There is one characteristic that all great leaders have. Think of the leaders that have led you, whether it was in business or sports, politics, religion, doesn't matter. Who are the ones you admired and who are the ones you didn't admire? The ones you couldn't wait to get out from underneath. And I'll bet the ones you admired were out there leading the way, taking action on the field, so to speak. In this podcast, AJ and I are going to expose some costly leadership mistakes that business owners, entrepreneurs make. Look, leadership matters. Whether you're just a solo entrepreneur or have a small team, and of course, if you have a large team, if you have a business, side hustle, whatever, you need to be leading it. And we're going to show you how business savvy leadership will actually help you increase your profits and create sustainable growth.
That part you were saying about the admirable leader who's actually in the field doing it, that reminds me a lot of that Teddy Roosevelt quote you had at the opening of your book, The Next Level Entrepreneur.
Thanks for that plug, AJ. And he forgot to mention, guys, you can get my book on Amazon.com. But seriously, this quote is by Teddy Roosevelt, and he's describing leaders we all admire. And I'm just going to read a couple little excerpts from it. The man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, makes mistakes, who at best knows achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. There's more to the quote, but he reveals what we all love in leaders: courage sourced in passion and conviction.
And I think also a key point of that quote is the one who errs or makes mistakes. He's admitting that leaders make mistakes, that they don't know everything from the beginning, and that it ultimately is okay, because that's actually an attribute of leadership, is being able to fail.
That's a really good observation, AJ, because I have seen this not only in myself, but in other leaders. And I think it's pretty common that we're afraid to either make the mistake or feel like we have to know it all, so that we don't make mistakes. And this is paralyzing. So in other words, what? I've got to go learn all this stuff before we can move forward. And then when you do make a mistake, and guys, look, you will make mistakes as a leader. How do you come back from that? What do you say? How do you ask forgiveness if you've hurt somebody or drop the ball or whatever? So I think it rounds you out as a leader to be a real person.
Exactly, because real people make mistakes. And
Right.
The best way to learn, at least for me, the quickest way for me to learn is by making a mistake. And then I go, oh, I'm never doing that again. And you have the memory of the mistake and the embarrassment and the pain that came with that mistake. And you remember that anytime you're close to that situation, so you won't do that again. So actually, mistakes are just building up your leadership experience.
Look, it's the only way to get experience is you've got to get out there and do it. And so back to the Roosevelt quote is he talks about the man in the arena whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood. And the whole dynamic of that is you're not in the stands, you're in the game. You're taking risks, boldly taking risks. That's courage. And that's courage with conviction. And you're not going to be in an arena you don't want to be in. So that's where your passions come in.
And I do just want to note that, George, you wrote this book before Tom Brady made his show, The Man in the Arena. So you didn't steal it from him. You found this quote on your own there. But the point still remains, because, yes.
Well, actually, I think Tom Brady borrowed it from me. Just saying.
We can't prove that he did it.
We can't prove it either way.
But the point still remains, if you're an entrepreneur, a small business owner, and you started your business and you're beginning to enter operations, you have entered into the arena. You can't just go hide into the corner office. You can't hide behind titles. You have to go out there and actually do your business. And that's where the mistakes come in, because you're daring greatly, as Teddy Roosevelt says. And when you're daring to do great things like starting a business.
So it's not like we have to be in the arena. We have to literally choose that on a daily basis. And this actually leads to another mistake, but I think it's the greatest characteristic second to courage. And that is most leaders are intimidated by people who are smarter than they are, that they surround themselves with. And this is it looks in this is subtle. This isn't obvious. Okay. So if you think you've got to know it all, then one way to get there is just have people that aren't as bright as you around you. Okay. And that's not saying it's intentional. It's just we have to be very intentional in our hiring. So the antidote to that, and really, honestly, feeling like you have to know everything, is hire people who know everything. Because when you do that, oh my gosh, you have hired jet engines to launch your business into the stratosphere.
Yeah, I was just about to say, if you're the leader who thinks you need to know it all and you're intimidated by other people knowing more than you in a certain area, you're just making it harder on yourself, and you're entering the arena with no teammates.
Yeah, there's something else occurring to me right now, is that what ties to all of what we're talking about in this mistake is I've got to go figure it out myself. So, and I'm also thinking about the solopreneur. You're going like, well, George, I'm not hiring anybody because I'm working on my own and I get it. But you do surround yourself with information. You do go to YouTube, the internet, you've got friends, you might hire an advisor, or whoever. We're offering a free mastermind. I guarantee you it's to get my experience to you. That's the whole purpose of our mastermind. And that means surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, that have more experience than you do, that have been there and done it, not read a book about it like most YouTube videos in business seem to be regurgitating other information. What you need is smart people. And what that does is it elevates your game a lot and very, very fast.
And by surrounding yourself with those smart people, some of their knowledge is naturally going to transfer over to you, especially if you're out in the arena with them and you're fighting these battles, seeing how their brain works, seeing the solutions that they come up with. You're going to start learning from them as well. So by having someone smarter than you, you're actually, like you said, you're lifting yourself up as well.
There's a podcaster that's actually talked about this, and starting out, he was early 20s, and here's what he did. He interviewed people. Now, this is not Joe Rogan, okay? I'll just tell you that right now. And so, because he wanted to gain experience in a certain genre, okay? And the fastest way he could gain experience, and this is brilliant, guys, you could do this, is he would hire people in his genre. Say it was business, okay? And he wanted to learn business. So he interviewed people in business, and he didn't care who he could get because he didn't know anything starting out. So everybody knew more than he did. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you today, probably 15 years later, 10, 15 years later, no, it'd be like 10 years later, he is a very good interviewer because he doesn't talk. He has great questions and he let the guests go. And I love listening to his interviews because of that reason. But I also know he's learning. Now he's, like early 30s and he's still learning.
So I get how in a podcast setting, you can learn from interviewing people, but do you have an actual real world example for people who are running? I mean, we're making a podcast, so I don't want to downplay podcasters, but for people who are running real businesses.
Well, absolutely. Because here's a great example that will apply to most everybody, because you're going to go to a tax person, CPA, to do your taxes. And they're going to start talking tax gobbledygook to you. And they are smarter than you are, but they're smarter than you are in taxes. They're not smarter than you in leading a business or your particular, whatever your business is that you're doing. And this is true for even people you hire. So if you brought in a very, very smart marketing person, okay, they're smarter than you in marketing. Or you brought in a really, really sharp sales leader or salesperson. Okay, they're really good in sales. They can talk sales like you can't. Okay. But here's the point. Is you, first of all, let's go back to the accountant. You're going to learn tax stuff, but here's what you can do and you will do, because I'm telling you, because you need to lead your accountant. We did a whole podcast on this and how to lead your professionals and actually lead your team, because you know two things. If you're watching our podcast, you know to lead your business by knowing where you're going, where your business is headed, and you know to make leadership decisions based in your numbers.
And only you, being the leader of your business, are positioned to make decisions based off of that, to know, to have you as the business leader, you've internalized where you're going. You should have internalized some of your numbers and at least understanding the cash flow dynamics or the important numbers in your business. And so no matter the subject area expertise somebody has, you shouldn't be intimidated by them, because they still can't encroach on what you've internalized as a leader. And if you're being an effective leader, they should definitely be no threat to you.
That's right. And I like what you're saying about internalizing, because you got to know where you're headed. Let me show you the Business Savvy leadership method. So this is a simple diagram just to kind of orient you and show you how as a leader to lead your business. And it takes some work to develop the two key legs of the triangle. But once you do, you can do what AJ just said, and you can internalize that. So on one side, it's map your direction, okay? And so that's leading with direction and strategy, because you know where you're headed. And let me just pause on that for a second and say, in a company, and I've led companies, they lose track of where they are, and they get down in the weeds, and they're doing the sales, or they're doing the production, or they're, whatever their job is, and they could be a high-level VP doing their job, okay? And you think, well, they're a leader too. Believe you me, leaders need to be kept on track too. So there needs to be one person in the organization, somebody who knows where you're headed, and keep everybody moving in that direction. And when they're not, you kind of get them back in line to do that.
Yeah, and that's the key to leadership, is making sure everybody's going in the same direction. You want to bring in all the smartest people you can, and then make sure they're rowing in the right direction. And if you have all of those smart people rowing in the same direction together, your business will be growing exponentially.
Yeah, we did a podcast on this, and you can check it out. It was based on the movie The Boys in the Boat. And this is the 1936 Olympic team from Washington University, that won the gold medal. And it's a phenomenal story. The movie's pretty good. The trailer's great. And the podcast is over the top awesome. But just picture this. So it's an 8-man crew, and all those guys, the 8 guys in the crew, all have different, they all pull an oar, okay, but they have different roles inside the boat. But I don't know all the ins and outs of rowing, okay? But here's what I do know. There's a 9th guy in the boat, and he has a little megaphone hooked to his face, and he's leading the boat. And he's telling them when to pull, when to push, when to do this, slow up, speed up. He's in charge of everything. And that guy, what you learn in the movie, is he is absolutely critical to victory or defeat. And that's what you do as an entrepreneur, business owner, leader, business savvy leadership. And so we've got 2 legs of the triangle.
So George, with this rowing analogy, it's very clear that you need to map your direction and you need everybody rowing towards that. But how do you incorporate numbers into this as a leader? How does that help everybody row in the same direction?
Yeah, and we've explored this on podcasts, but it's very important that you make leadership decisions based on numbers. I will tell you that, and I've never seen surveys on this, but my anecdotal experience is not only do most leaders of companies that I've encountered not make decisions based on real numbers that are genuinely tied to their business, but neither do other people in the company, even CFOs. I mean, you'd think. And so here's the thing. You've got to understand your numbers. And what that means is what numbers matter in decision making and what numbers don't. Because I think for most entrepreneur business owners, we just get overwhelmed by all the data, all the numbers, all the metrics, blah, 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 the financials. I don't even understand what a balance sheet means. You don't have to understand and know that. You don't have to know how the taxes are done. You don't have to know how the accounting's done. What you have to know is what are the key drivers, the key metrics, the key financial numbers that help you measure your direction. So it's very, very simple, guys. If you're going on a trip, you got to know where you're going, right? There's two key numbers, at least two. How far is it? That's a number. How fast am I going? That's a number. When will I get there? That's a number. You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah. These are all of what's informing where you're going. It's what's letting you know along the way that you're on the right path or you're on the wrong path that you need to course correct.
Yes. And here's the thing. If you're using those two legs of the triangle and you see it's pointing up to creating business savvy, increasing profits, growing, and sustainable growth, not just growth, but you'll be able to sustain this. You will grow exponentially. Like AJ said, I can say that because that's happened at every company I've helped lead using this process, especially, and with entrepreneurs I'm guiding. Exponential growth is almost expected.
Yeah, and exponential growth is what we're all after. And I know just in hearing this, we've gone pretty general, and I'm having a lot more questions I want to ask you right now. And I imagine all of our audience has some more questions to dig in the specifics of their leadership style and the people they have around them and where they're going. So what's the next step to address those?
Couple of things. First of all, we're going to give away that triangle. It's also on the website, but you can click a link below because just get that in front of you to remind you, wait a minute, I got to know my direction. I got to understand my numbers, and this is where I'm headed. That visual is going to guide you in leading. That's super simple. You could do it right now. The second thing is while you're in the description, click and sign up for our free mastermind. We do one a month, and you can ask me any questions. And that's where we can sort some of these things out that are specific to your own situation. And look, AJ mentioned my book, and it has the complete strategic process I've used with companies and entrepreneurs in it. And so that's all the map, the direction side of the triangle. So get a copy and start going through that because it's going to help you immensely in speeding up to get to where you're trying to go. And check out this video right here. I know you're going to love it. And in the meantime, may you live truly free.